My name is Heidi Braven. My dad was Blaine Wilhelm. And he's sitting next to me.
I'm Candace McGavin. My dad is Blaine.
One more. Okay.
My name is James Shardock. I'm the great-nephew of Joseph Jesus, Special Agents.
So, as we talked earlier about, is there anybody else that wants to be introduced? Great nieces. Okay. Jugsy. Yeah. Yeah. So, we heard a little bit about, in the morning, it still wasn't really clear what happened. Does anybody want to share, how they first heard about the shipwreck, or if they remember anything right away, or have any family stories from that first part of how it is?
I will tell you that we were in bed, my brothers and my little siblings, and we were asleep. We heard a bunch of noise out in the living room. And although we knew the game was on, our dad was not there. He was down at the hunting shack, so it wasn't him yelling. And we got up and snuck out in the living room, and on the news, we saw Danny Anderson. That's exactly how we found out about the kids being missing. My cousin Kurt had to go down to the hunting shack to get my dad, so that's why he's part of this story. And we were told to go back to bed, and then we heard more noise, and then my grandmother was in the living room, my aunt and my uncle, and my aunt was pregnant with her fourth child at the time, 7 months pregnant. By the way, Patty came 2 months early, so she was born on November 12th. And I remember hearing it on the news and then getting up later because you didn't really sleep that night because there was so much chaos. And then getting up and having to cook breakfast for the littles, which were my younger siblings. And then still not knowing, of course, if the ship was really gone. But then everybody kind of just making the assumption that it was for sure drowned, or that it had sunk.
So I was at home and for whatever reason, my mother called me and said, "Come on downstairs, I have to go over to your Aunt Marcy's." And a football game was on, so I was watching the football game, and it came across the bottom, a little note that said, "Edmund Fitzgerald feared lost on Lake Superior." And then it comes down to Mother left and told her at my uncle's at 10 o'clock at night on Monday. And we had to go down and get my cousin, and ended up with another relative of ours, and we ended up walking through the woods. We have to take a boat to get down to our cabin. We didn't have the boat, and the weather wasn't very good either. So we walked through the woods, and I remember it was quite a shock for them when we woke them up at 1 in the morning or whatever. And they had been at the other cabins, and they're in the Kakagan sloughs. And
You can't get there by car, right?
nope, you have to take a boat. And the thought was that when we get there, we'll get in the boat and drive it up. And the motor wasn't working on the boat. Anyway, we woke up. His dad, and my dad was there too, and we told him, we have to go. We have to. The Fitzgeralds sank. We have to get you up. And they had a few sociables that night, and they thought that we were just kind of, can you imagine getting woke up at 1 in the morning saying that the Fitzgerald sank. So that was a whole story about getting him back to the landing, and that's how I learned about the Fitzgerald, and I was a senior in high school at the time.
Missy, could you remind us how long John had been sailing and how soon he was going to plan his retirement?
That was his last trip. He was done after that. He has been sailing since he was 18 years old, and he passed away at 64. His first ship was the Lindsay, his second ship was the Hannah, and he was with the Fitz from its onset till it went down.
Rose, I think over here.
I kind of have a similar story. We were sitting there and the football game was on, so the news wasn't on yet, and our neighbors next door came over, and I think they were watching the game, and they saw something about Fitzgerald, so they came over to tell us, so then we had to wait till the news came on, and that's how we found out. My mom, I can remember her spending, I don't know how long on the phone trying to get anybody to tell us anything. Never happened. I didn't sleep that night. But my sister here has a slightly different story.
Yep, so I'm retired Air Force 24 years, and I was stationed at Dover Air Force Base. 9 months pregnant with this one. I mean, literally 9 months pregnant. So they did not tell me that, and my dad had been on the reserve his whole sailing career that I recall. So even if I saw it on the news, I probably wouldn't have made that association because he had been on the reserve for my whole life. So, yeah, I think they told me after she was born, because she was born on November 14th, because they didn't want any early notification.
And that was Dad's first grandchild.
So, I was 3. I don't remember any of that. I can presume that my parents were in a similar boat, watching the news and hoping to get updates and maybe getting calls from the rest of the family.
So, you know, one of the things that, was there somebody else over here that wants to say something?
I didn't say where I was.
Bring the mic over.
This will be short. Jugsy, his nickname, we all call him that. And he's my great uncle. And I was in the Navy station in Bremerton, Washington, when I got the message from my mother that Jugsy passed. And I recalled some of the times when he was very off the ship at the times when he was able to come and visit us in Tripp, Wisconsin, near outside of Iron River. And he would bring us just such a joy and a laughter, smiling all the time. And that's what I remember of him over the years and years and years that go by.
So with the 50th anniversary, I can imagine that family members from the Fitzgerald are being contacted. Just for comment, I mean, news organizations, has that happened to anybody yet?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Anybody want to talk about that a little bit? Besides us contacting you, of course.
Well, earlier this year, Jim Dreyer, who's a long distance swimmer, a couple of years back, he started organizing a memorial swim for the Fitzgerald. So I ended up in Whitefish Point, where the first leg started, where it stopped, and they're actually doing a documentary at some point this next year. It will be released, But actually, I didn't really get too many contacts until the end of the swim in Detroit, because I was there for that too, and I got interviewed by 2 different TV channels, one Canadian, one American. Somebody, I don't know if it was from the Minneapolis newspaper or Duluth, has contacted me. And I've gotten many Facebook, I've had a few people just contact me, and I'm like, yeah, it's been a lot. And there's more to come on November 7th. I am going to be on a panel up in Whitefish Point with the media, along with a couple other family members and other people. So it has been a lot this year.
Anybody else?
We'll be in Whitefish as well, yeah. So, I'm not on a panel, but we'll be there. We're coming with I have 2 sisters and we travel there every 5 years. No matter what, we bring our kids and our grandkids, so we just go up for the 9th and the 10th, and then we come back the next day. It's awesome to be 17 miles from where he is, so that to us is cathartic, peaceful, and I don't know, there's so many words in my head. Yeah, it's just, so yes, it's a great, if you've never been, I highly recommend going. It is amazing how beautiful the museum is and how great the people that work there. Yeah, they're fantastic. Agreed. So yeah, we'll see you then.
Can I ask a question?
Is there a question?
Hey, Missy, do they ever have a tour out to the site?
So
No.
the question was, has there ever been a tour out to the site?
No, I personally, if we get a chance from a personal level as a family to do that, just to throw a wreath, I'd be great with that, but I kind of still feel that it's a grave site, so I don't want to do anything that would upset that, or for people to maybe think that it's okay to go there.
I can add to that a little bit about that.
Bring the mic over.
I'm not sure what year it was, but my mother and one of my uncles were on there. They actually took a Coast Guard cutter with their family members on there, and there was a service at the wreck site. Other than very specific things that they've got permission for, there was a group of paddleboarders that went out there and had kind of a little mini service out there. And also when the Memorial Swim started this summer, they actually had a service there, but other than that, the site is actually off limits, and they actually, the ships actually don't usually go right over the site. They will go around it, and they know where it is. There is a buoy out there with the name Edmund Fitzgerald on it, I do believe.
If you come within so many feet of that buoy, registered to Coast Guard.
Right.
Canadian Coast Guard, so they know that there's something close by.
And I didn't mean a tour for the public, but for family.
Yeah. And for the public,
Yeah.
honestly,
No.
being a family member, I don't think that would ever happen,
No.
honestly.
Shouldn't.
So here's a question back here.
Hi, my name is Jan Lumber-Kupchak and Uncle Blaine, my mother's brother. And my mother, I found out a lot of things through my mother. And her siblings went every year in a pilgrimage to Whitefish Bay to join with all the families, to mourn together, to celebrate their love for their loved one. And it was very important to them. And she was there with her siblings when they went on the Coast Guard trip. And what my Aunt Marion, Blaine's sister, told me was it was kind of foggy that day. And when they they said when they got to the exact spot, it was clear. It was really amazing. And the one other thing I would like to say, that when we were getting the news that a freighter went down. In Ashland area, we have a whole lot of sailing people. And the wives all know each other. And they had no idea what boat went down. So everybody, and they didn't know exactly where their husband's boat was. So until the verification, no one knew. And so there was a big mourning throughout the area. Yeah, and my dad was out there too, because he was a lifetime sailor.
I'd like to know if you people who are relatives here connect with other relatives, and how does that work out?
No, I mean, yes, we stay in contact with actually quite a few of the families through Facebook. So I see a lot of families there, a lot of, I mean, because all 29 men are represented, which is what's so important about Whitefish Point and how it's not just where the Fitz is, it's where the families mingle and meet and get to see each other all the time. So that's what's pretty significant about Whitefish Point. So yes, we do. We, Pam Rafferty, I haven't seen her for a little while, but I'll see her this year. Ruth Hudson, who was on that one video, she was a remarkable, remarkable lady.
Ruth and Cheryl Rosman both.
Yes, Cheryl Rosman as well. Yes,
Those two were
pretty solid.
pretty solid. They were two people that pretty much got Claire gravesite and got the bell up.
They did, for sure. Yeah, absolutely.
And I can tell you, I've become very good friends with Deb Champeau and Pat Whitting, who is Ruth Hudson's niece, was Bruce's cousin.
Yeah, they were all instrumental. Absolutely.
Yes, and yeah, I mean, I've actually visited Deb at her house in Milwaukee once on a trip. Oh, and Pam Rafferty will not be there. She's going to be in Toledo.
Oh, that's right. She's going to be at the museum.
Yes.
That's right. Okay.
But
So
I will
yes,
be
we
there.
do keep in contact.
And we some of the family members are allowed to stay in the cruise quarters at the museum. And afterwards, we sit in that kitchen and talk for hours and maybe consume just a wee bit of alcohol. This year is going to be even more interesting because I'm pretty sure we're all going to need some alcohol when we're done with all the media, because they are doing a public service this year at 2 o'clock in the afternoon because so many people wanted to be involved. But if any of you have been to that museum, it is very small. So it's been closed to just the family and invited guests since COVID. And COVID had nothing to do with it being closed to the public because it just got too much. And the families, I can tell you, having been there so many years, it is much better just having it limited. It truly is, because it's more of an intimate setting. And yes, we have made some lifelong friends there. I call them, Pam and Deb are my sisters. So.
So I'm gonna ask a question that I think a lot of people are probably wondering. You know, less than a year afterwards, Gordon Lightfoot puts this song out. And I'm sure that carried with it a number of emotions, good, bad, everything. And because you've gone to the museum and the gatherings, apparently he's been there at times. Did anybody have an experience?
We've all met Gordon, yeah.
Was that, anybody want to talk about that?
Well, I could tell you, Ruth Hudson, she wasn't there because she was basically on her deathbed. Gordon Lightfoot would sometimes come on the 9th and talk to the families. Well, Pam Whitting, who is, Ruth's niece, she was there taking Ruth's place. And Gordon Lightfoot was there, and Pam told him, what was going on with Ruth. And she says, well, would you like to talk to her? He said, yes. So Gordon Lightfoot is one of the last, I think probably the last person actually that talked to Ruth that night before she passed away. She passed away that night. It was either that night or the next, but he was pretty much the last person that spoke to her. And there is a picture of him standing in the kitchen of the cruise quarters on the phone with Ruth. And your mom, Jan, Dorothy, I remember her obituary. Gordon Lightfoot was mentioned in her obituary as a special friend She had no clue how big Gordon Lightfoot really was. None. She was oblivious. Yes.
I have a story with that.
Bring the mic.
When Mother was moving from the country to Ashland, so as a good daughter should, she helps pack up. And in her bottom drawer, she had a stack of pictures. You know, they're just mismatched. And I was going through them kind of, and here's a picture of Mother with a guy. And I said, Mother, who's this? Who are you with? And she's, well, that's Gordon. Gordon who? Well, it was Gordon Lightfoot. And not too long after that, he came to Chautauqua. I don't know if anybody took him in, but anyway.
I was there.
I was there too. But anyhow, I asked Chautauqua, a friend of mine there, could I get this picture autographed? Does he do autographs? And they said, no, he doesn't. And I said, well, here's the deal, you know, and it'd be nice for the family, and you know. And so they told me if I had a Sharpie and the picture blowing up and a very simple explanation, they'd put it in his room, in his dressing room. And I put it on my scanner, and the whole family has it. And now it's at the Ashland Museum. So that's, I mean, thank you, Gordon.
It's a great story. It's a great story. You know, I know it's getting late and I just want to ask the family and the members, is there anything you want to tell us? Is there anything you're just dying to tell us?
Go ahead.
So, my Uncle John, I was under the impression that he wasn't going to go on his last trip. It was supposed to be, but he wasn't going to go, but the captain talked him into it. Kind of like, okay, this will be your last one, you know, that we're ever going to do together. The Christmas before, we're all over at Missy's parents' house. We all get together, that side of the family, for Christmas Eve. And Uncle John, he's having a few drinks and stuff, and he's over on the couch, and all of a sudden he starts crying. You know, Uncle John, what's wrong? And he's like, this is so nice, he says, I really enjoy this. He says, I'm not going to be here next year. Oh, okay, Uncle John, you know, because he had a few drinks. So we talked earlier about the night when it came across the board and I saw that the ship had sank. That's the first thing that came to my mind, that he said he wouldn't be here for Christmas the next year. I also want to... Yep. So I just want to say a few things about my Uncle John. He was, some people may know, some may not, he was an excellent basketball player. And stories I got about him, he would always tie his key for his lock in his shoelaces during the game so nobody would open his locker. And he actually played in a traveling league team, I guess, and he played with Bud Grant. If anybody knows who Bud Grant is, he was very good friends with Bud Grant. He was an excellent pool player. He was a hustler. I was told that he beat Willie Masconi. If anybody knows him, he was a world champion pool player. And my Uncle John always wore suits when he was away from the house. I mean, he had the tie and the full suit, and if anybody's ever seen a picture of him, he looks like he was probably part of the Gambino family. This little dead mafia. I'm dead serious. But I remember when I was younger, he very rarely was home in the summer, but when he was home, I'd be at their house, and he'd have a tennis ball, and he'd say, all right, throw it up in the air. And he'd tell me to go higher and higher. He said, if you can reach that certain height, I'll give you $2. Well, back in 1968, that was like a gold mine. And to this day, my right arm's a little bit longer than my left. I'm throwing that ball up in the air. And my grandson is named after the Fitzgerald in honor of my Uncle John. I remember, so my Uncle John, as I mentioned earlier, to get to our cabin, we had to go in a boat. And he had like 2 life jackets on, and he was hanging on to a boat cushion. He was so scared to be in that little boat going, because he was so used to being on the big one, and how ironic that turned out to be in the end. And he, I remember I asked him when I was in high school playing basketball if he'd come watch me play once, because he was a really good player. And I remember one game, he only showed up twice in all the years I played. And I was on the JVs, and in the first quarter I got 2 fouls right away, and he was sitting behind our bench, and all of a sudden he tapped me on the shoulder, or somebody was, and it was him. And he handed me a program and a bag of popcorn, and he says, while you're here, you know, on the bench, you might as well read something and have something to eat. And I'm like, oh, John, you can't be doing that. But that's just the way he was. And but yeah, and he never drove. Him and my Aunt Florence never drove. He just, or they'd have my mom pick him up. Yeah. And grandparents on that side of the family, I never knew them. They were deceased before that. So him and my Aunt Florence were like grandparents. There's something else I was thinking about, but I can't really recall right now.
We got a story over here, so you can think about it.
All right, here you go.
Mine's not so much a story, just I wanted to say how much I appreciate as a family member, the way you guys put the program. It was very, very meaningful and personal, so thank you.
Thank you. These were. This is history's, kind of secondhand. You're hearing and living through things right now that very, very, very few people ever hear about. It gives life to the story here. When Bruce Coleman talked tonight, it was very touching, I thought. And, Bruce and I were in school about the same time. He's a little bit younger. Mike Garnish is here tonight. He remembers this. And of course, there's several of us here tonight. Raise your hand if you were in Washburn School when this all happened. Yeah, here we are. It counts. Yeah, because
Right.
You're an Aggie.
Yes.
Yeah, well, the Aggies are part of the Castle Guards now, and we're very happy to have you as part of our family. So, yeah. Well, listen, a good Aggie shouldn't be bothered by it, so that's okay. But, I don't want to step out on a limb, but, the Coleman's, Alan Coleman's wife was the secretary at the Washburn School. And, Jim Strum, the principal, his daughter is here tonight. She'll be the first one to tell you that Emmy Coleman ran the school. But Bruce came up to me afterwards, and the Coleman family's been very, very, very private about this. And I think everyone here has respected their privacy on it. Because not every family deals with this the same way. And there is no right or wrong way to do it. They just do it in their own way. But he did make that comment to me tonight, and I'm just going to share it with you that, we didn't always know what to say. Because what do you say? What can you say? And it's really, really important when we hear all your stories tonight. So I know you probably want to get out of here. You got dog duty, right? She does. Anything else?
I just wanted to add that I worked for Minnesota Power for 24 years, and it's so hard still for me to talk about that. I only told like 5 people that my dad was on the Fitz for 24 years.
Wow, that's amazing.
When I tell people, you know, my dad was on the Fitzgerald, they go, "You're kidding, right?" I'm like, why would I kid about something like that? But then you realize that there's only 29 families that know what that was like, and that's why I like going to, because all the families are there, and we have become our own family. I mean,
Rose?
Just a couple stories that I heard while talking with the family members that I want to bring up. James, you have a gift that your uncle gave you, and if you could just tell us about it.
Sure. So again, I was very young when Fitzgerald went down, and but my dad, we grew up here in Ashland, over there in Ashland, and my dad was very, very close with Uncle Jugsy when he was home. They would go fishing and they hung out a lot. So I may or may not actually remember it. I'm told this is my memory, so I'm going to go with it. So we were at his house. Again, I was less than 4 years old, and he gave me a toy car. And I actually still have it. It's out in the truck that was in. And this is the memory that I have. So I'm gonna say that was from Uncle Joyce. And for some reason, I still have it. I kept it. And I will just add to that just our thanks and gratitude for keeping the story alive and for all the attention in the memorial outside. I drove up to town last night to take a look at it. It's really quite something. And the last thing I'll add is that the first time we were at Whitefish, my wife and I took our son and my parents, so they were about 80 years old at that time, back in 2016. So it was the first time at Whitefish. And so my dad got to ring the bell. Something that I know meant a lot to him and meant a lot to all of us that he got to do that before he passed on to join him.
and Whitefish, if you're ever there, go down to the beach, go to your left, and there's still 3 wooden memorials out there on the beach for some of the crew. There was another one, but weather up there took it, but I was just up there this summer, there's still 3 of them, but you have to wander just a bit to find them, but they're off to the left from the deck up there. And that place is very special to me.
If you can't get there, they've got a great website.
Yes, they do.
Yeah.
And this shirt I'm wearing, I don't know if any of you saw the bag.
It has all the names on it.
They just came out. This is the first time they've done this just for this anniversary. I don't know if the website is open up for the store now that this is close to the winter, but it is only at Egypt Records. Yes.
Heidi, could you share, you have a daughter that has shared a special day?
Yes. My youngest daughter, who will be 27 on the 10th, she was born on the anniversary in a windstorm that closed Mackinac Bridge. She's been up there with me to the memorial several times. The one for her 21st birthday, she was there. She got more alcohol that night than... But we came back, and a couple weeks later we were talking, and she said something about her tattoo, and I was like, what tattoo? Well, she now has, across her left forearm, we are holding our own. And John Bacon just came out with a new book. I'm going to push the book, and he did a wonderful job, and that story is in the book. So, yeah, and she will be up there again with me this year, along with my other daughter, Nicole. My son couldn't make it, but we're going to be doing Thanksgiving as a family on the 9th up in the UP.
Thank you. Yeah, so there's a lot of new books coming out. There's a couple of documentaries coming out right on the 10th. So
Discovery, Wisconsin interviewed my sister and I for, there will be one that'll be shown on November 10th, right before the Packer game. So
And that's the other
And that'll be okay.
That Chapel's husband, I can remember like 5, 6 years, it's been several years. We're sitting there in the memorial, he's looking over, he's nudging me, he's like, hey, Packers just scored in the middle of the memorial.
Yes, there's something about Packer fans.
I was watching it in the living room of the cruise quarters before we went over to the memorial.
I was going to mention another book if anybody's really interested. It's by Rick Mixter. It's called Telltale Signs. Fabulous book about the Fitzgerald. Fabulous book.
Thank you much, everyone, and thank you everyone for coming. Big crowd. I hope everything went well tonight.
And the church bell chimed till it rang 29 times. We will now read the names, and the bell will ring one more time. Is the fire department ready? Joseph Mazies, Special Maintenance Man, Ashland, Wisconsin. Michael Armagost, Third Mate, Iron River, Wisconsin. John Simmons, Wheelsman, Ashland, Wisconsin. Blaine Wilhelm, Oiler, Muckwa, Wisconsin. Alan Coleman, Second Cook, Washburn, Wisconsin. Frederick Beecher, Porter, Superior, Wisconsin. Thomas Borgeson, Maintenance Man, Duluth, Minnesota. Ranson Cundy, Watchman, Superior, Wisconsin. Nolan Church, Porter, Silver Bay, Minnesota. Oliver Champeau, Third Assistant Engineer, Sturgeon Bay, Wisconsin. Thomas Benson, Oiler, St. Joseph, Michigan. Captain Ernest McSorley, Toledo, Ohio. John McCarthy, Mate, Bay Village, Ohio. James Pratt, Second Mate, Lakewood, Ohio. Eugene O'Brien, Wheelsman, Toledo, Ohio. John Povachich, Wheelsman, Bradenton, Florida. William Spengler, Watchman, Toledo, Ohio. Carl Peckel, Watchman, Ashtabula, Ohio. Mark Thomas, Deckhand, Richmond Heights, Ohio. Paul Ripa, Deckhand, Ashtabula, Ohio. Bruce Hudson, Deckhand, North Olmsted, Ohio. David Weiss, Cadet, Agora, California. Robert Rafferty, Stewart, Toledo, Ohio. George Hull, Chief Engineer, Cabot, Pennsylvania. Edward Binden, First Assistant Engineer, Fairport Harbor, Ohio. Thomas Edwards, Second Assistant Engineer, Oregon, Ohio. Russell Haskell, Second Assistant Engineer, Millbury, Ohio. Ralph Walton, Oiler, Fremont, Ohio. Gordon McClellan, Wiper, Clearwater, Florida. The crew of the Edmund Fitzgerald.
The legend lives on from the Chippewa on down of the big lake they call Gitchagumi. The lake, it is said, never gives up her dead when the skies of November turn gloomy. With a load of iron ore, 26,000 tons more than the Edmund Fitzgerald weighed empty. That good ship and true was a bone to be chewed when the gales of November came early. The ship was the pride of the American side, coming back from some mill in Wisconsin. As the big freighters go, it was bigger than most, with a crew and good captain well seasoned, concluding some terms with a couple of steel firms when they left fully loaded for Cleveland. Then later that night when the ship's bell rang, could it be the north wind they'd been feeling? The wind in the wires made a tattletale sound, and a wave broke over the railing. And every man knew, as the captain did too, 'twas the witch of November come stealing. The dawn came late and the breakfast had to wait when the gales of November came slashing. When afternoon came, it was freezing rain in the face of a hurricane west wind. When supper time came, the old cook came on deck saying, "Fellas, it's too rough to feed you." At 7 p.m. a main hatchway caved in. He said, "Fellas, it's been good to know ya." The captain wired in, he had water coming in, and the good ship and crew was in peril. And later that night when his lights went out of sight, came the wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald. Does anyone know where the love of God goes when the waves turn the minutes to hours? The searchers all say they'd have made Whitefish Bay if they'd put 15 more miles behind her. They might have split up or they might have capsized. They may have broke deep and took water. And all that remains is the faces and the names of the wives and the sons and the daughters. Lake Huron rolls, Superior sings in the rooms of her ice water mansion. Old Michigan steams like a young man's dreams. The islands and bays are for sportsmen. And farther below, Lake Ontario takes in what Lake Erie can send her. And the iron boats go, as the mariners all know, with the gales of November remembered. In a musty old hall in Detroit, they prayed in the Maritime Sailors' Cathedral. The church bell chimed till it rang 29 times for each man on the Edmund Fitzgerald. The legend lives on from the Chippewa on down of the big lake they call Gitchagumi. Superior, they said, never gives up her dead when the gales of November come early.